Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Monday Morning Musings, where we are continuing on what it means to be called or identified as the Way. I'm going to do part 2 of the first B. Last week, we talked about the social, relational, immersive concept of personal being, shared personal being. And there's a little cliche that makes its way around Facebook and things that everybody goes, oh, wow, about. And I want to talk about it for a few minutes because it has to do with our concept of being. It goes like this. I'm a human being. I'm not a human doing. Have any of you ever heard that? It normally comes from people who've been abused in local churches or whose sense of personhood comes from a legalistic background. And it's a reaction to trying to find significance, place, status, performance, acceptance, personhood, identity from our behavior. Unfortunately, it's an utterly Gnostic and non-Christian point of view. There is no conflict between our being and our doing. When there is, it's because there is something disintegrated or something related to sin that is causing the disconnect. Because our doing is the overflow of our being. That little one-liner, I'm a human being, not a human doer, is dualistic. It's Gnostic. It has Platonic overtones. It's wrong. For instance, when a bird wakes up, what does it do? Let's say, should I behave like a bird being or a bird doing today? Well, I don't want to be a bird doing because that's works. And after all, no, it flies because it is consistent with its nature to fly. Its action derives from its being. It's that way in all of nature except for us, because we be messed up in the head. It's called the disease and sickness of sin. It's called relational alienation from God, called sin. So that whole being, doing, polarity, binary polarity is a false statement. We are supposed to reflect the nature of our Father. He's a fully integrated, another way of saying is wholeness, WHOLENESS. He is fully whole. There's nothing fragmented in him. Nothing comes from him fragmented. But out of his being, his actions from his volition. God can't be impelled. God can't be coerced. God doesn't have to do anything. But out of his benevolent love, activated by his will, he has acted. And here's the deal. His benevolent actions are not in conflict with his being because his being, in essence, is love. And so all his actions derive from his being. When we are well in the head, it's the same for us. But our culture, our society, our economic system works against that. Let's go back to the 18th or 19th century. I'm working in a cotton mill in the center of the United Kingdom. I'm working 12 hours a day, 6 days a week in oppressive conditions just because I have to do something so I can survive. Now that's a human doer. That's disintegrated being. So it doesn't matter what I think, feel, dream, hope, plan. It's the only opportunity in my village. And I have the privilege of dying, giving my life away, dying at 35, crippled because I've either been working in a mine or working in a cotton mill for the Lord of the Manor who sits up on the hill and who's getting rich on the back of human doers. Where my very existence on the planet is nothing other than a commodity for commercial enterprise. It's one of the downsides of capitalism. Not going to get into a big lecture about capitalism today. But yes, If you have been a commodity in a local church for another man's ambitions, that's a human doer. You've been commoditized. You've been trivialized. You haven't been activated and actuated and fulfilled as a human being. That leader was supposed to pay attention to you to see that you blossom into satisfying human existence. There's only one vision of the house, and you better line up with it, or you have a Jezebel spirit. That's all nonsense. Part of the transformation process for every believer is so that the gap between my being and my doing gets smaller. And it gets transformed so that just like my Heavenly Father, my doing becomes the overflow of the reflection of my loving. I love, therefore I am. So that means if I'm a doctor, my doctoring isn't because I'm trying to get rich and I'm not answering to the insurance companies and the pharmaceuticals. I'm answering to God. And love compels me to bring relief to humanity. And so my being and my doing coincide. If I'm an AC technician and somebody's AC is out and it's 105 in Texas, and I love working on mechanical things, and I'm good at it, does that mean I'm a human doer? Should I just wait? Because Jesus is going to do it all. Oh, I just need to sit back and wait for Jesus to do it all. No, all of that is Gnostic, dualistic nonsense. No, I fully engage. A great example of that, this human being and human doing, God's going to do it all, I'm just a passive bystander, is in the Annunciation to Mary. Something folks, particularly Protestants, because of their anti-Mary bigotry, rarely talk about. So the promise comes to Mary. God says, I'm going to do it. Boom, end of story. Very key statement. Be it unto me according to your word. Human volition. Human volition meets divine intention, and being and doing healthily merge. There's no gap between being a human being and your actions, your behavior, your doing, your activities. If you struggle with that, it is very likely it's because you've come from, like I said earlier, an abusive spiritual environment. So I'd encourage you, if you've ever used that phrase, could you do me junk that phrase, quit using it. I mean, it sounds all super spiritual and like, you've discovered some great secret of Christian spirituality. That's not true. Christian spirituality exists when I feed the poor, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, visit those. You know it. There are ethics to Christian spirituality. So this pietistic, if I do anything, well, that's going to be works. And that's just all accumulated rubbish from whatever universe you have experienced most of your Christianity in. I'll see you next time.